welcome to Spotlight. This is our little podcast where we just get to know different people and see what they're up to. So, tell me who you are, first name, last name, and tell me a story.
Okay.
Tell me.
My name is Annie Lanners Kack. Just a little background because it does pertain to this story I'm going to tell. I come from a really big family. We're considered the observers, the Mother Jones generation. We are the the second family in a big family after World War II. So my 6 older siblings were raised in the 60s, and I witnessed it as the generational divide. It was so amazing. But anyway, so that was my household, small household. And when I was a junior in high school, I always wanted to live life to the fullest. I don't know, since I was a child. Maybe it was following all those siblings. And I went to an Outward Bound. It's a survival school. It's the original one in northern Minnesota, Boundary Waters, but they're all over the world now. And, they'll have short courses, but they're long. The course I was on was a month long in the winter in Boundary Waters. I was just 16. And there was another guy that was 17, and there was 5 other people, but they were all in there. There was like a professor from Purdue, a social worker from Chicago, a guy out of the Army. I mean, they were grown-ups. And so, but this other kid and I were really good athletes, so we did all the map and compass reading. And we broke trail, because it was Virgin Trail. And so we would take turns, and I don't know, we carried half our body weight, and I was 136 pounds. We ate 4,000 calories a day, burned it all off. And, I think we skied with those packs on at least 16 miles to 20 miles a day. And some of it was, when I'll just tell you 2 pieces to this. One was one of the last days we were on trail. So we were equipped. We knew what we were doing. But one of the trails we were to take, all the trees had been blown over in a windstorm. So all these trees that were big, we had to step over. And they were above my waist. So we put our skis, there's slots to put your skis in, put them up. And we had to, with all this equipment, step over these logs for miles. And we were getting through with it. There was something else in our way. And I saw everyone at different times cry. I remember seeing the man who had been out of the Army. In my head, I knew he was strong. I knew he had been through boot camp, all this stuff. I saw him crying, sitting down and wanting bawling. And a short time later, I did the same thing, And but then I knew it was hard. Anyway, but at the very end, we spent 4 days and 3 nights alone in the woods on a solo. And being 16, we were only given 7 wood matches, a piece of visqueen, plastic, and we had 2 sleeping bags, one inside the other, and a saw. And I think we had a couple tablespoons of lentils, a little bit of salt, and a quarter pound of hamburger for 4 days and 3 nights, and a couple pieces of candy. And I sat down I was the last one they dropped off, and it was getting dark. And by then, it had stayed around 40 below the whole time we were there. But our solos, I came and sat on this. I sat down on a log in my spot where I was supposed to stay, and I just bawled at first. And then it was like, I woke up. It's like I became an adult in an instant. It was like, if I do this, I'm going to die. It was that black and white. It was deciding between a shelter and a fire. That was my life, so I decided to make a shelter. And I took 2 logs, pushed them up against a rock wall, and made it so it was a cocoon with the plastic and boughs, on spruce boughs. And and then we had those 7 matches, and I what I did the whole time was cry or God, I was so lonely for my family because I came from that big family. I'd never been alone at all. And all of a sudden, I didn't really have a life to contemplate yet. Does that make sense? I was just I was lost. And so, but all I did was sing. I sang all the time. Sang and cried and cut wood. It kept me warm. And I know when they finally picked me up, they kind of laughed at the pile of wood I had. I don't know how many cords I cut. you know, the next person was going to stay warm. you know, and but it's the coldest solo in Outward Bound history. So 50 years later, so I'm 60, I'll be 66. That was 50 years ago. It's still the coldest solo in the history of Voyager Outward Bound schools. And the guy that was my age has already died. He died in his sleep about 10 years ago. And
Did everyone else that was on your solo make it through?
everybody made it through, and the grown-ups liked it.
They did.
They did. They really liked it. They got time to contemplate and think about their lives and all that stuff. But two of us, the two young ones, we hated it. Now, granted, I mean, things like it was so cold you couldn't use a pen. So I had a little notebook and a pencil, and we couldn't take our gloves out of our mitts because our hands would freeze. Now, this is old equipment we had too, so I had a mitt. So I couldn't, so I had a big mitt and a pencil, so notebook. And on every page I wrote, I missed my family. Next day, I missed my family. And I was telling my I have 6 brothers, but I was riding with 2 of them to a funeral.
You had 6 brothers?
I had 6 brothers.
So 7 siblings and all. You're the only girl?
No, I have 2 sisters. The older than me were 6
Oh,
and
this
5.
is a small family earlier.
A big, I'm the little kids. Small. They had 2 families. So the big kids were born, 6 of them were born in 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Big Catholic family.
Yeah.
And
wow.
and then 5 years later, I was born.
Okay.
And then a younger sister here. But so that's why we're called.
So you kind of had batches.
Yeah, and that's why we're called the witnesses or the Mother Jones generation, because I was my mother's shadow. So I saw the generational divide and the arguments. Oh my God! And some of my older siblings have IQs over 165. Really smart, and they would argue. Well, my sister particularly would argue with my father. Now, I'm 5th. My children are 5th generation German immigrants. And my parents are from a small German farming community in southwest Minnesota. And my father moved our big family to Hopkins. We had 8 kids then, into a really small house. And at that point, I was almost 4. And so I had a sibling that, when we moved there, I'm going to say they're between, they're teenagers, 10 and 15, moving to a city from an isolated German farming community, dropped into a city in the 60s in the Cultural Revolution. I mean, literally, my brothers would come in with the long hair. I remember my sister being barefoot once riding the bus. My mom got all over her, But I had a brother in Arlington National Cemetery in the Army. I mean, my father only had an 8th grade education. He was well read. He was a printer at the Star and Tribune. And my mother wanted to go to college, but at that point, the boys went to college, the girls went to secretarial school.
Hey, what?
Went to secretarial school.
Okay.
That's what happened. And my mom had wanted to go to college, and she tried to get into the Navy as a way to become a nurse. And they wouldn't take her because she had 3/4 of her stomach removed when she was 16 because of ulcers. That's what they didn't know. It's an antibiotic,
Well, yeah.
It is most of the time.
Medicine improved over time, right?
They found out why they get ulcers. But, it helped her pain, and she could eat, and she had 9 babies, but she wasn't strong enough to be in the Navy. It's like, if you had babies, you just want to get in the finger. But anyway, where was it? Where were we? Oh, yeah. So it was that time, like now, was happening in the world. Things like when, God, I thought of Kent State as soon as the police were on the campus, on Columbia campus. I thought of those students that were shot by our National Guard. Things that changed our human rights, who changed our culture, made it open. Is here again. Things that I saw my older siblings fight for. In our home, in the world, my mother was in the state where women could only work or have children. No in between, period. And my sister was in the first class of nurse anesthetists. I mean, that's a huge jump from you know what I mean? So my dad made sure we were in a safe environment, had a good education. He couldn't pay for college. Didn't even talk about college. We had to figure that out on our own. And, but we were safe and loved. We had a ton of music. A lot of my siblings, I was too a musician. And it was the 60s. I grew up with Neil Young, the Beatles, from 6 years old. It's in my blood, you know? And those things that were happening then that was so much passion around are like the people marching now. You know what I mean? It scares me what's happening. The first thing was women's rights. We don't even have equal rights in this country. Women don't. We don't have the Equal Rights Amendment. Why? Why? And then, in my lifetime, abortion. Okay, I'm raised very Catholic. Abortion was really bad. And when I was about 19 maybe, my older sister, who would have been 10 years older, came to my younger sister and I. We were in the backyard, and she was home, and she told us about when she was 17. Oh, she needed help. She needed to have an abortion. She wasn't going. She got pregnant. First time she had sex, fertile like my mother, and at 17, and didn't want my mother to have to raise another baby, and on and on. I mean, there's more to it. But she had to fly to Mexico by herself at 17. Her brother, not a brother, but the guys got together money for her to fly alone. Okay, she told us that. And it was kind of like as a younger sibling, you just kind of go, okay, you take it as information, you know, a lesson. Kind of, you don't like put it all together maybe. But so then later in my life, I had a legal one. And it was still very traumatic. Man, I went through counseling beforehand. I mean, if anybody thinks that's an easy decision, I'm going to say shove it. It was one of the hardest decisions I have ever made in my life. But I had to. I was in Alaska. It was a bad guy. I would have had to have stayed there and never come home. Anyway, I won't go there. I'll cry. And, man, people think it's so hard to make that decision. And then I married a man whose aunt was the one that brought Planned Parenthood here.
What?
Brought Planned Parenthood here. Her name is Betty Benjamin.
Okay.
She's gone now, and she was an amazing woman. She was married to Bob Benjamin, who is a surgeon, a general surgeon. But I was married to a doctor, too. And they come home with stories that they can tell her what, you know. And he would tell Betty about all the women that would come in after botched abortions, losing their uterus, losing their lives, because abortion wasn't legal. It wasn't a medical procedure that was legal. So it was legalized for 50 years. Now I have a daughter who's got daughters. 50% of women used to die having babies. And then to be a woman and not have autonomy over my own body. Someone else is deciding for me what's right. I mean, I'm going to go into these people are making these decisions for women. I want to go in their medical office, their doctor's office, and make a decision about their whatever. If they're going to get a vasectomy, if they're going to get to have children, if they're going to, you know how many women are not having sex? You know how the birth rate is going way down? Women are afraid to have babies because they die. They die. I almost died twice. I am so scarred up from having babies. When someone is able to carry a babe, anything, a baby with 2 cells to a full human being, then you can have the discussion about it. But you still can't even make a decision about my body. People got to wake up, man. People have to wake up. I was so proud of my children. They are busy, but we were still at a march together. My grown children, one in residency, now one's in a master's program. Busy people doing good things, but her husband's an anesthesiologist. He still was a medic there. We can have legs. We can stand up. We have a voice. It's the only thing that's going to save this country. I'm grateful I live in Minnesota, but because we tend to look out for you know that saying from Spider-Man, with much power comes responsibility.
Yeah.
The responsibility is to the weakened. If you're Christian, we're to care for the poor and the weak, not make a woman have a baby and then not care if that baby is fed and educated. Who are you? Who are you? You're not following the American dream. You're a shadow, blocking the light of democracy. We all have rights. I heard that from 7 years old from my older siblings. Each person matters. And you think you have power and money, you just wait. So one day you could easily be at the bottom of the pile. Be you're critically ill and you need help, and the one next to you needs more help, but you're going to lay there and suffer. You know, I could go on and on.
Well, these are powerful messages that you're sharing. We are close out of time.
You think?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It felt good to get the political stuff.
I'm glad you have the platform. I'm glad you're so passionate about what you're passionate about, and I'm glad that we're able to share it.
Yeah, so crop the ballard bound thing out. No, just let me rant.
No, not at all. We don't need to crop anything out. We'll share it with the world, but yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Annie. Hey, it's Will with the Podcast Crew team. Spotlight is a vidcast shot at the Podcast Crew Studios in Minneapolis. We would love for you to be our guest. Email us at the email address on your screen below to get a copy of the upcoming schedule. It's free, it's easy, and it's a great way to try out a podcast or a vidcast with our pro team. We do an in-person, in-studio version if you're in the Twin Cities area, and also an online version if you're somewhere else. We'd love to have you, hear your story, and help you start your podcast journey. Thanks. Get in touch today.